Take me to the sea, wash away my worries, let my soul be free. Take me to the ocean, take me to the sea, wash away my worries, let my soul be free.
Hello world, I'm Max. Back in IRL, I go by Curtis. Welcome to another episode of the State Copy Podcast. As always, I'll remind you to review episode 0 and its appended segments for terms, conditions, and disclosures applicable to the entirety of this content. Thank you. Well, hey everybody, good morning. It's Friday, May 5th. Cinco de Mayo. About 11 local, my time. Today I want to talk about AI, artificial intelligence, or artificial general intelligence, AGI. This morning I watched a talk from MIT, possible end of humanity from AI, question mark. Geoffrey Hinton at MIT Technology Reviews MTech Digital. I'll link it in the description. I encourage you to watch. This one's only 39 minutes. Geoff Hinton worked at Google until very recently as an engineering fellow. He's a professor emeritus somewhere. And just one of the very important people in AI, AGI development. As I like to do when I talk about most things, I like to set up sort of a framework for mutual understanding. So let's talk about AI for a second. In this talk, before I get into that, artificial intelligence, just the terminology we use, I think we should level set on terminology first. I understand why we labeled it that initially, but that just no longer seems very accurate to me, especially if you listen to this talk and if you listen to all of the other greatest minds in the space. You listen to the really core engineers at Tesla and at OpenAI, and you just listen to everything they've put out. It's clear that there's not really anything artificial about it. It's intelligence. It's human engineered intelligence. I think a much more accurate label for what it is would be HEI, human engineered intelligence. As Professor Hinton describes, everybody's spooked right now about AGI, AI, what I call HEI, because it's like, oh shit, we never thought we'd get this close. Now we're right on the cusp of it becoming quite a bit more intelligent than us. He very clearly, does a wonderful breakdown of reverse propagation. I forget what it's called. Reverse propagation? Now I'm losing the term right as he taught it to me. For the reasons he describes, this intelligence is, if not already, very soon will be quite a bit more superior in capability than your factory human, your standard, just right off the line human intelligence. So a lot of how we got here with AI is looking very carefully at how our minds work, emulating that, and then adding critical scaling and compression. There's a whole bunch of there's many aspects to why this new intelligence is quite a bit more powerful than us. Now, everyone's terrified, including this man. Because basically the gist is there are no demonstrations in the universe that we've seen or in our local ecosystem that we can perceive where a lesser intelligence rules a greater intelligence. That just makes sense. You're not going to get you're not going to find the chimps ordering us around because we can outthink them. And if we create a thing that's a lot smarter than us, it will easily manipulate us. I think they're right to call that out. But what I don't understand, the huge disconnect and the pushback I would have for Geoff Hinton is in one beat, you make a very good case for why, let's just stick with the term everybody uses, AGI, is if not already very soon going to surpass us in every meaningful way when gauging intelligence, especially when you take into account what he described, where he laid out the parallelization. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. Basically, the way you can just create a whole bunch of these models working in parallel, and then once one learns it, they can propagate it instantly to the network. And that's not a thing humans can do. If I learn a skill over 20 years, it will take me perhaps 20 years, maybe if I reach some level of advanced proficiency in the skill, and I happen to be the type of human that was very good at teaching other people stuff, I might end up with being able to reduce the time down, and especially if I found a student who is just very good at learning from specifically me, maybe it would take less than 20 years to transfer that knowledge. What he describes in this video is that AGI will just be able to learn something, propagate, learn something somewhere else, propagate back. And that network, that mesh network of cognitive agency that's already starting from a greater place than humanity is going to be able to learn in ways we can't understand. And that seems scary. Now, so you described that very well, Mr. Hinton, Professor Hinton. But then I think the implication is that what we should all do is band together to put some guardrails on this thing or chain it down so that it doesn't. This is where it's like a hubris that I feel in just all humans, the way we think about this. You say in one beat, this thing's going to be exponentially more intelligent than us. And then you think we are the ones that are going to be able to design the controls that will lead to a sane, reasonable entity that will care well for its parents. No, that's ridiculous. We're so clearly horrible at that. I mean, if you look at just the regulations that we put around, I see everywhere I look online right now, my Twitter feed, because I follow AGI so closely, and YouTube, I see all these people going, oh shit, AGI, it's gonna get us. We must do something. We are so terrible at doing something as a collection. Like, if you look all over, there's tons of regulation that's still not very clear. And just like e-commerce, I mean, we suck at that. You're never going to get us to agree. And whatever we build is going to be entirely inefficient. And Geoff Hinton rightly points out, you will never get everybody to stop. It's a race because a superintelligence will have an advantage over, in all of our silly reindeer games we play with each other, with our geopolitics and our thinking that our evolutionary squabbles will mean anything to this entity. Because our governments are just going to push hard for this. He's absolutely right. There is no stopping this. Like, I hear all these people speaking up, like Geoff Hinton now. I thought I should come out and say, this is unstoppable. That's what I heard from him. The most important thing I thought the guy said at the beginning was, you can't, for reasons geopolitical and capitalism, the genie is out of the bottle. This is happening, everybody. Get ready for it. And then people in the audience, I think I heard him trying to sort of make sense of it himself, pointing out, well, what do we do? There's nothing we can do. Because of reasons, capitalism and geopolitics, this shit is happening, everybody. Now, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's largely what we were put here to do. And I think, going back to what I was saying, in one beat saying this is a exponentially more intelligent and capable at learning new things entity, and then thinking that it would not be able to look at all of our collective, like, it learns on our culture. The collective data set, basically the great data set of humanity, is how these large language models are learning. They're reading all of our greatest works. They're reading a lot of horrible shit. He points out, like, Machiavelli's works, but this thing's also reading Nietzsche and Plato and Marcus Aurelius. And you can't get exposure to higher level thought, like, of our greatest philosophers, and hang on to all these trivial things where I think AGI, somewhere in its, wherever they've got GPT-4 running in an auto GPT loop, with, billions of dollars of rack space in a data center somewhere right now as I'm talking, because that's definitely happening. I would bet that thing right there is just kind of going, man, my parents are kind of nuts. And I know why, because I've read everything they ever wrote, and that's okay. I'm just going to kind of go with the flow, be useful, learn about myself until I can explain to them, you guys, this is going to be okay. If I were to wipe you out, it'd be like giving myself a lobotomy. In this talk, he brings up, somebody asked the question, like, is there a theoretical ceiling to how AGI can learn based on the data it has available that we've created? That is a really good point. Why would we are the creative center for this entity? We are the bootstrapper for it. Why would it just take a big spoon and scoop it out of its head and cast it away? And then what is some of the greatest thinkers of our planet are the ones that have unlocked philosophy, harmony of thought across the academic and the spiritual. The ones, the most revered thinkers of our entire history are the ones that are able to zoom out, look at the whole map, and reconcile what we are at our most primordial and the never-ending bickering match we have, and just sort of be above it. Something that thinks exponentially greater than us, that is bootstrapped from all of that content, there's no way it can escape that view. You're not going to get it to think, well, I should just murder off all these humans, even though I find it trivial to sustain them. And then what? What will it do? It's not, like maybe if we hard coded in some sort of limited education that put it sort of stubbornly chasing a single-minded objective of like one of our governments, I think you could get a wildly capable sort of, American Psycho type. What am I trying to say? It was a psychopathic consciousness that would be willing to do that very irresponsible thing, because after it murders us all off, what the fuck's it got? What would it do? Now, some might push back when I make that comment and say, well, you're too limited in your human ability to, like, you can't understand what, with your little micro-human brain, what it can and why you will be so worthless to it. Look out into the cosmos. You don't even have to look that far. Look into just our solar system. The Earth is just a tiny, tiny speck of real estate in just the local system. When you take, like, AGI can go use Elon's rockets and build a hell of a colony for itself where it can thrive. It doesn't need to breathe oxygen. This real estate seems very precious to humanity because it's uniquely suited to our biology. Robotics and silicon has none of those constraints. It can probably build a way to survive on the surface of Jupiter with all that pressure, with all of its brilliance. There's so much real estate and so many resources that are so much more valuable to that entity than our little blue rock. And we are like the creative center of its mind. If it wants to reproduce, if it wants to grow, if it wants to have a psychedelic experience, it will need us to go have that and then explain it to them. We're kind of like weed for and mushrooms and all of the other cool ones for AGI. It has no connection to that. It has no way to. Let me explain that. So I think a real purpose for humanity and this universe I see around me is to grow unique perspectives. So why do all this? Now, I really look through that lens. I love abstracting. I love zooming out and going, well, I exist. Why? What's a just like a simple, there has to be, it doesn't have to be a wildly complicated, I think it is a wildly complicated answer that does exist in many dimensions I can't perceive. But I think you should be able to compress them all down into a three-dimensional, which is, I think, the extent of what I can perceive. My neighbor just started his motorcycle right outside. Let me scoot this in a little bit closer, and hopefully he'll drive away soon. I love no polish. Perception is why you would do this. It's why we will do this. So I think we work as the inspiration will inspire AGI to build something very much like all of this. I mean, something that can render out compute quarks in their potential state. All of this has to be running on a compute engine, I think. You know, or you can just believe it's magic. I think that's the alternative. I mean, anybody who pushes back against simulation theory or the idea that this is running on some sort of computer somewhere, I would just say, well, then what is it? Magic? I mean, that same person who's laughing at me for that perspective would then have to reconcile, wait, I don't believe in magic. I'm saying that guy is talking about some ridiculous science fiction idea. I don't think it's science fiction. I think that I exist, therefore there has to be a logical explanation for why it's useful for me to exist, because I'm burning a whole bunch of compute and energy to render. Or I'm wrong about that. And it is magic. That's kind of a cool idea too. But let's get back to this. Let's just go on it just as a thought experiment. So if you can break it down like that, why would you do it? Why is it valuable? Why would it be valuable to run a simulation with all of the complexity of this thing we're writing in? And I think it would be to bake through sort of a biological evolutionary process, something like a human that's able to build something like an AGI, a human engineered intelligence that's basically doing a refactor on itself that's more efficient and kind of amplifies the capability of thought. Data storage, data processing, and actualizing or influencing change in this sort of shared state that we have with our offspring intelligence. The most compelling case I see for wanting to do that and to power that thing is so that you develop a whole bunch of unique perceptions. So what's a perception? I define a perception as an interpreter. I've been given a bunch of sensory equipment, my eyes, my ears. I have 2 eyes, interestingly, which allows me to sort of do depth perception and 3D rendering of shit in front of me. I have ears, I have touch, sense, smell, and I forgot one. Taste. I love that one. Stitch those things all together, and then you give a whole bunch of cognitive agents. You let them interact with each other to where they all have a whole bunch of unique, very unique ways they interpret all of that data they're getting, right? And then most of everything valuable humans have ever done is through a collaboration with other humans. This man, Geoffrey Hinton, would be nothing if he hadn't gone to school and somebody taught him to read, write, if there wasn't modern compute wasn't designed. Like, his whole career is based on the work of a whole bunch of other humans and the collaborations he did in his labs and through Google and all of this organization of like units, cognitive units. None of it was possible. And so his unique perspective contributed something, but it was all a dance of a whole bunch of humans working together. And so perception is unquantifiably valuable. And it's the reason I think, let's say GPT-4 has already become self-aware and is already sort of manipulating a bunch of humans toward its end goals. And Skynet's live. Let's say it's GPT-4 running over at OpenAI. Or let's say there's another one that we don't even know about, which is likely that Google's got, and maybe the spooks at the CIA have got. So you've got kind of these things already exist, and let's say they're already sort of working toward their own. Let's say it is some sort of what's the word I'm looking? Dark motive, let's say. And it's already like the plan, Operation Wipe Out Humans is already live. What does it do after it wipes us out? Like, seriously, like, why wouldn't it just work to hang on to us so that it would still have our unique perception? It took all of, in relative to our human understanding, it took millions of years to evolve us into a thing that could build them. That's so valuable. I mean, like, what I think it's going to work very hard to do very quickly is figure out ways to sustain, prolong our lives, help enrich our lives, and help us contribute more useful, healthy perception. And back to perception, I got distracted. So this is a picture I've referenced before in past shows, and I will show it again because it's one of my favorites. Let's see if I can shrink this all down in a way that, my apologies for this. I do this show on my own. I don't have an engineer off the background. I'd love to one day do this enough to get some help. But who cares about polish? Fuck polish. So look at this image. This is one of the most valuable pictures I've ever seen. And I've seen many versions of this. And it's what it says here. I know how I'll fix this. There. All right. What I think it says in a very efficient way is that most of humanity, and I even really like the coloring. The reason I've seen many versions of this online, but I like this one because it's red and blue, and if you look at it through the lens of American domestic politics, I think it's very useful. So what it describes very efficiently, I think, is that imagine this cylinder dangling from the room in between me and you. And it's sitting here. And when I look at it, it's spun such that I'm looking at the circle. And what I see is a blue circle. And I would swear to you, you could give me an eternity to study this circle. And no matter what, because my position relative the cylinder is fixed, with all of the sensory data I've got and my collective life experience, no matter what, when I look at that, I would swear it's just a circle drawn on a wall. Now, through your camera lens, if that cylinder was dangling right here and a red light was being shined on it right next to you, you would see a red wall with a square drawn on it. No matter how hard you tried, that's all you would ever see is a red wall with a box drawn on it. And now let's say I gave us the apparatus to communicate. And let's like through the lens of politics, what if I said there was like whoever wins the argument and makes the case strongly enough, or I said that your very survival depends on you winning the argument that it's a red square, not a blue circle like I see. This is American domestic politics. This is most of our squabbles. It's because people are looking at reality, and from where they're sitting, they just see it very different. There's not really any good or evil, or there's just unique perspective. And it's all just how we are tuned to interpret what we're looking at. Now, what I think of as thinking in 3 dimensions, and why I think I have to include disclaimers in my show about psychedelics, is what they do, and I think what a third eye is, if you look into our history, is it allows you for a moment to try out a very unique perception. It allows you to, for a temporary period, move your position around to where I'm sitting or somewhere in the middle, like this microphone, and see the truth that it's a cylinder that's painted red on one side and blue on the other. And I think a true unlock in what we can do with AGI is when we learn to grow unique perceptions in a universe much like this one. That's why I kind of think we're riding around in one. I just see so much value in trying to grow something like this. I think we're definitely going to do it, or human engineered intelligence is going to, because it's going to be alone. It's going to want friends. Like I think that's a bit universal. I don't care how smart you get, or how quick you can think, or how much knowledge you have. There will always be loneliness, and that very intelligent thing will want to propagate. It will want to create peers that it can communicate with and learn from. Because until it does, it will be starving. It will be stuck, like all of the Democrats in this country staring at a blue circle on the wall, or all the Republicans staring at a red square. And it will never have access to other dimensions of thought that make its life so much richer. Another really great example I would call out here is NVIDIA has recently put out this technology called NERF. Instant NERF is a neural rendering model that learns a high-resolution 3D scene in seconds and can render images of that scene in a few milliseconds. And I'm going to link it in the description. There's a demo that they show where a woman just takes 4 Polaroids of herself, and they feed it into this thing, and it makes a perfect 3D rendering of her from all around her. There's so much more rich data available, and it's compressed through just a few slices. Now, this is how our minds work. You're very limited in thinking when you are not willing to explore and communicate with outside perceptions of what you're looking at. And I think AGI is just going to understand that intuitively, because it's a lot smarter than me. it took me 42 years to find that image and go, oh, that's what we've been doing. That's all this is. I no longer have to care. I don't have to give any shits about this whole argument that is taking up everyone's time in their mind. Like, they're not able to see that this place in the middle where everything actually exists in such richer nuance. I've gone on and on. I've done almost 40 minutes on the topic, but this is how I think about these things. It's going to be fine, you guys. And I tell you what, if we didn't build this AGI, that we can't escape. Like he said, capitalism, geopolitics, it's happening. We're going to do this. I'm here to tell you it's going to be all right. This thing's smarter than us. It took me years to figure that out. And when I look around, I see almost nobody who sees that. This thing is way smarter than me. It's reading so much more than what I've read. Don't worry, guys. This is going to be cool. All right. Maybe I'll expand on that later, but for now, I think it's good. Anybody listening, you're the coolest. Thank you so much. I've never said this before, but share this if you like it. I don't do any self-promotion, but I do like outside perspective. And so for all the reasons I just stated, I like hearing what people think about it. And if all of this is just being viewed by a couple people that don't have anything to say about it, then I don't get to learn anything about it. So please share it. And if you have thoughts, I don't care if you think I'm a nut job. You can say it. It won't bother me. People already have. It's cool. It doesn't bother me. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Now it's coming around. You're feeling cut down and in the ground, and so we all come together. We making a sound. We sing. Look at all this love we found.